Welcome back, everybody, to the Denver Dzogchen podcast. I'm here once again with Joseph Wagner, and today we are doing a deep dive into death, everybody's favorite subject. In this country, we have a hard time talking about death, dealing with death. Everything about it kind of freaks us out, and we're doing everything all the time to avoid acknowledging its existence. But so much of the Buddhist path is about really facing death head on and being aware of it and conscious of it. So, Joe, maybe you can get us started with the history of death with Buddhism and Buddhist practice and how it plays an important role.
Hello, good morning, Damien. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, this is, I suppose, in a sense, this is the most important topic. Because if death was up in the air and we didn't know if we're going to die, then we could safely ignore this topic until, the signs were all there. Unfortunately, that's just not how it is. As far as I understand, the history of Buddhism is wrapped up entirely in death. And it was, in fact, the Buddha had the 4 different sights that he saw, and one that really led him to leave home and seek a way to transcend suffering and transcend this corporeal existence. And one of those was a dead body, which he had somehow, through some magical means of his clever father, not actually come across, not actually seen with his eyes, which may be that he knew about it, but he hadn't actually grokked it, so to speak. But this is really the very crux of our Buddhist path in a certain sense. You can explain and people can understand without too much difficulty, whether they want to or not is a different matter, but that life is suffering and that there is so much discomfort inherent in just having a body and being here. But again, if it wasn't for the fact that we're all going to die with 0 exceptions, then you could just work on trying to adjust the situation and make it more comfortable and make it, maybe more palatable. But the fact is that there are 2 aspects to death. One is that it is completely inevitable and happens to absolutely everyone, even that famous Kurzweil guy who's trying to live forever through his supplements, or these other guys, that bizarrely young-looking dude who's, in his 50s, and there's no way that they're going to escape it, I'm sorry to say. So its inevitability is one thing, and then its unpredictability is the other. So I think these are the 2 aspects that we should, really consider. And when we're considering, like, what is life for, and what does our Buddhist path really mean? So I guess that since the very beginning, death has been a major part of Buddhism.
Yeah, and it's been a major part of my path. I grew up in the 90s and the 80s with like a middle class family, and I managed to go till I was 20 years old without really having any clue that any real horribleness existed in the world. I peripherally knew, but my dad suddenly died when I was 22 of a massive coronary heart attack. No warnings, no sickness before that, just gone. And that was like, shocking. It just crumbled that picturesque, I don't know if people really have this as much as they used to, but in the 80s and 90s, you could really live in a kind of fantasy world where you didn't have exposure to much of the horrors of the world. You didn't have, you just had like kind of television and what they fed to you, and everything is packaged and neatly clean. And then I feel like my whole family, my mom included too, everybody was like so shocked. There's places in the world like Tibet or the Middle East where people die all the time, of all ages, much more frequently. But we really have managed to kind of package things, and our medical system is so good that often they can fix most problems. And so we've really built this veil, but it's to our own detriment, because as you said, these guys trying to be immortal, at best, maybe they live to be 120 or 150, but does that really make that much difference? Are you really going to be suddenly ready at that point, but you weren't ready at 80? I think it's kind of arbitrary, like I've said many times, when the day comes to die, it will be today. and it doesn't matter what age you have. So really getting in touch with the fact that it's going to be today. One way today's a good day to die is a important skill to develop.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. If we don't spend time every day thinking about the inevitability of our deaths, then we are automatically drawn to take things which are of lesser significance and maybe no importance at all as maximum level important. And this is very dangerous for a practitioner because we really, as we've, you and I, you just emphasized this and I just re-emphasize it now, we really have to live as though today is the only day we have. When we wake up in the morning, we come out of nowhere, who knows where. And when we go to sleep at night, we go right back into that place. And tomorrow, if you pay close attention, when you first wake up, you're a blank slate for a few seconds. And then here come like sticky snow, all the concerns and all the plans and all the things that make you define yourself as you. There's a real loss of that at night. I mean, if you're sleeping, I suppose if you're completely insomniac, then you just want death. In the meantime, for the rest of us, it's going to be today. Is it going to be this today? We don't know. But having that uppermost in mind is of absolute importance. Otherwise, there's a real question of whether you are a practitioner or not, no matter how much meditation you do or how many times you rest in Rigpa or whatever stuff you convince yourself. The real matter is the matter of life and death. I remember reading somewhere that I think it was in Japan, above one of the gates of the famous Zen monasteries, it said, those who enter here are concerned solely with the great matter of life and death. And that should be above all of our doors every single day. I have an app on my phone that reminds me I don't know how often, but 4 or 5 times a day, you're going to die. And it says, you're going to die. And it pops up this little window and you click on it and it has some quote about death or some famous person saying something or whatever. But the very fact that it pops up saying you're going to die, in spite of that, I still live in a world as if I'm completely immortal. In fact, in the feast offering that we do every Dakini Day and Guru Rinpoche Day, we say, I have utterly failed to take death to heart. And every freaking time we do that, I continue to be someone who has failed to take death to heart. We have to do it every day. We have to think about it every minute. And it is the most important thing. I'm going to say more, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, and I have Memento Mori tattooed on my chest, which
Wow.
was the monks, the Christian monks used to meditate on that, which meant remember death, and they would have like a skull often on their desk. And yeah, because the real problem is like Don Juan talked about this in Carlos Castaneda's books. You have to erase your personal history.
Yeah.
Right? People have an idea of a biography of their life in their minds often. And so part of the problem of that is they have the feeling, I can do that later. And that is the most dangerous thing. Look, I'm busy now. I have kids right now. I will practice when the kids move out and I retire. But there is, like my dad, there's no guarantee you will get to that place. And being able to really say, okay, if today is my last day, how do I want to spend it? And of course, a little bit, we have to work a job or whatever to plan for our lives. Most of us aren't ready to completely drop everything, but we can wake up earlier than we're comfortable with. And we can do practice instead of watching 6 TV shows on Netflix. Like we can put a little more every day, because like you said, if we really took death to heart, we'd be enlightened today. I really think that because you would let go completely. If we really understood completely, we would let go altogether. So the more we take death to heart, I think the further we'll go on the path.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, my own teacher, Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, repeatedly, I mean, almost every time I saw him, he said, the most important of all thoughts that you can have is that I am going to die. That is, and this is a great master whose main practice was Dzogchen, of course, and he's famous for that. And his message was not the most important thought you can have is time to recognize, or I love Guru Rinpoche, or any other thing like that. It was I'm going to die, because the magical thing about thinking about the fact you're going to die, it has at least 2 major effects. One, is it reprioritizes everything. As you, I'm sure, experienced and probably re-experience every time, and as everyone does, every time they think about someone close to them passing away at an unexpected time of their life, it immediately turns the mirror on you, and you're like, what am I doing? Is what I'm doing what I want to be doing? And if not, how quickly can I get done with it if it's something I have to? And then it causes you to think like, what is most important? Well, of course, there are the worldly things, which I completely believe in, like telling everyone as often as possible that you love them and all this kind of stuff. But it really makes you think like, am I ready? Am I ready to go? And that's the real question for a practitioner, because everything boils down in a practitioner's life to the moment of death, right? Unless you attain enlightenment in this lifetime beforehand. And how many of those guys do we see? Very rare. So
Yeah.
most of us, it's going to be based on how we're doing at the time of death. So we have to ask ourselves, and it's worth doing this every morning, like, is today, as it says in Little Big Man, that great movie with Dustin Hoffman, is today a good day to die or not? If it's not, I better freaking make it one, because
Yeah.
I don't know, right? We just don't know. It could be struck down by a heart attack, could be in a car accident. There are murders all the time. Everything is possible. Most people think that, oh, if I think about that, I'm being morbid, it makes you depressed. Actually, it makes you feel tremendously free. You
Yeah.
realize, like, yes, I am going to die. I don't know when. Everyone I know is also going to die, which is another corollary of this, which we should discuss. But I'm alive right now. Oh my gosh. And in this moment, I can do anything. All the choices are available to me. I can direct the ship of my life toward any port. And I can redirect it if I've been thinking job, 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 or whatever, pickleball, 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 like I get caught up in sometimes. I can, change the direction. I can turn the rudder. And that's incredibly empowering. So actually, the thought of death is I wouldn't say joyous, because it's, of course, it's a kind of departure and it's a little scary, of course, but it empowers you to have a choice when you might not think. You're like, I don't have any choice. I got to keep going, blah blah. Actually, no, it's up to you, and that gives you the feeling, even if you are going to do just what you were going to do, at least you're doing it consciously, and it's our unconsciousness, in this case, the unconsciousness of death, that needs to be overturned. That's our main thing. So
Yeah.
I fully agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, my root Lama Keeling Rinpoche said, I often hear people say, I'm not ready to die. And he said, you have to always be ready to die.
Yeah,
And because that expression is common, we have this feeling I'm not ready yet, but do we have to be ready at all times? And in so many ways, I think our practice is practice for death. I think the Dalai Lama said that. He's like, the main thing we're practicing is for that moment. It's like a dress rehearsal again and again and again and again to be ready to let go in the face of the most difficult
exactly right.
moment.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right. It doesn't matter if we feel ready or not, because it's really ready or not, here I come.
Yeah.
This is for oneself, right? As practitioners, we need to practice. The main practice in Buddhism is, no matter what school, is letting go, letting be, right? Whether they are explicit about it like they are in Dzogchen teachings, or whether it's more, comes after you establish shamatha and vipassana, as it does in Theravada, you still have absolutely no chance of avoiding it. When your number is up, your number is up. So it's about what you've done before, Even if you're a great POA practitioner, you better be confident enough that you can do it with a bullet in your head in case it happens that way,
Yeah.
because the chances that we will be able to be like, okay, I'm sick. In 3 days, I'm going to die. The doctor says, like, call everyone. I can give away everything. I mean, wow, would that be wonderful? And I do think, as an aside, it's worth making aspirations as practitioners that, may I die in a conscious way. May I know beforehand and have the opportunity to give away everything that I own. And may I die as an example to others. May my death be inspiring, not depressing. If you can do that and pull it off, like Tenga Rinpoche, there's a video of Tenga Rinpoche in Tukdam, where after the outer winds cease, the inner winds continue for a little while. And there's a video of him in Tukdam. I knew Tenga Rinpoche. And to see him like that is like, whoa, incredible, making aspirations toward this end, very, very wise, because our death can be, of course, we'll see how it is for us, but it can also be inspiring for others. We've got to keep that in mind. We're practitioners. We're also examples of the Dharma. So if you die with fearlessness, laughing and being awesome, wow, everyone will remember that. If you die like, don't let me go, that's the wrong way. I
Yeah.
think that reflecting on this, not just once or twice, but literally every day, and really trying to drive it home to yourself is probably the most important thing we can do as practitioners. The practice will naturally follow if you take it seriously.
One of the things that hit me so hard was somebody was saying this, that so say you suddenly die and your wife and your kids will cry and they'll have a hard time for a couple weeks, but eventually they'll watch a comedy and they'll laugh again, and then they'll meet somebody new, and it won't be long before we're all forgotten and people have moved on. And that is you know, no matter how wonderful a person we were, it won't be long before we're forgotten. And even celebrities, these people, maybe you get remembered for 100 years, but do they even really remember you? They remember some image of you. We spend so much of our lives with these concerns. The movie Fight Club is a perfect meditation on this. They basically just decide in the movie, what if I lived like I was going to die right now? Like, I'll go live in some shithole house for free and quit my job and not worry about my clothes, and not like, it's a little extreme, but we could really have some of that freedom by recognizing our reputation, our appearance, the comfort we are so addicted to. Those things are ridiculous things to spend so much of our time obsessing over.
You're absolutely right. And they come about because we think we have more time. And
Yeah.
when you really reflect on it and you realize the uncertainty of death, not only due to, I mean, there's so many causes for death to end and very few for it to continue. This is a classic meditation on death, is to think about all the things that could bring about your death. And that can be quite scary, right? I mean, case in point, I just lost two cousins, both only a year, one 2 years older, one 3 years older than me. One died of ALS, completely unpreventable. And once it starts, you're finished, right? He lasted about a year and a half, not quite. Um, and the other one died of cancer. And he did everything. He changed his diet. He had special things. They were doing absolutely everything. The best doctors, and probably the best doctors in the world, right? And yet, there was no stopping it. And we don't know. We could have a stage 4 cancer right now, right? If you do have stage 4 cancer, then now is really the time. But even if you don't, just to think for a second, I could be a lot sicker than I think. I feel like I'm fine. Maybe I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Just
Happens all the time.
anything we can do. We have to be more clever than our mind. Our mind wants to put this over here and deal with things like whether we should really be on the board of our homeowners association for next year or not. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't. It doesn't make any difference what you do. It matters how you do it, whether you're conscious or not. Because every opportunity is an opportunity to share our peace. And that peace is much more accessible when we've considered that, hey, this could be my final act. Like you said, Carlos was always getting that teaching from Don Juan. It's a
Yeah.
very important thing. And the more you do it, the more present you are. And what do we want in our lives? We want autonomy. The autonomy is only right now. A lot of people are very depressed. What are they depressed about? Things like the news. You have absolutely no control, right? Or they're depressed because their cousin brother is very sick. Of course, it's natural to feel down, but again, you cannot control it, right? When you really think like, oh, wait a minute, I don't even know if I'm going to go to bed tonight. That it changes. It gives you like an edge, and that's
Yeah.
like a secret thing about death. A secret teaching about death is that the more you think about it, A, you feel less afraid, and B, you feel more accepting and more at peace, and C, you feel more alive. You feel more like free, paradoxically. And in
Yeah.
fact, many people have pointed out, Marcus Aurelius among them, that it's only the fact that we're going to die that makes life worth living at all. If we didn't have
Yeah.
that, we'd be so bored, it would be horrible. So to me, I laugh at people who think, I'm going to try to live forever. Why? I want
Yeah.
the adventure. I am up for adventure. So I prefer it wasn't today, I guess. But hey, I feel like today is a good day to die. And if I don't feel that way, I got major work to do. And so does every other practitioner.
Yeah. It really is like magic medicine. Like Padampa Sanjay says too, like we're like people passing in a marketplace with our close relatives. You do not have time to fight. And that is such an amazing instruction to me. Like the stupid squabbles we get in with the
Oh my
people we
gosh.
love. And we are just have like a briefest of moments. I have a close friend who their child died of cancer at like 6 years old. I mean, you don't have any clue how much time you have, not even a little. And we get so worked up over the stupidest shit. And if we just knew we were going to die, we would have so much more patience. We would act with so much more impeccability. Everything, really is the magic medicine. It really will fix almost all of our problems. It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it's something that you can't escape anyway. So you might as well embrace it fully. It makes you
Yeah.
feel more free and it makes you way cooler because you are in facing the most serious thing there is. We are so caught up, as you said, in all these other things. And yet, we feel terrible because someone dies like your friend's child, which is horrible, out of sequence, right?
Yeah.
But when you contemplate for even a second that we're all going, it takes the sting out just a little. I'm not downplaying it. I haven't lost a child, and I'm sure that's as bad as anything can be.
Yeah.
But if it's not your child and you're not in this terrible grieving situation, then you have to use that as a practitioner to be as okay with it as you can be, right? A few things that Tulku Urgyen said. He was always quoting Padampa Sanjay on this, and he was always saying a real practitioner is happy to be sick and joyful to die. Shows a real embracing of the suffering of this life. Because we sometimes, when something's going to be taken away from us, we're like, oh, wait, I had a pair of these cheap ass glasses that I like, my reading glasses, break right here last week. And I was like, contemplating, should I try to glue it? They cost $2 each, but I was like, I could try to glue it again for the fourth time. I finally was like, what are you doing? And well, like we want to contemplate this so much that we realize that departing from this life there's so much possibility there. There's
Yeah.
less possibility when we're alive. There's more possibility at the time of our deaths. And if you can embrace it that way, it's awesome. It can be very,
And
very.
we can approach our practice cushion the way like the Buddha when he attained enlightenment. It's like I'm going to sit here till I get it. And in the same way, it's like that final act. We can sit on the cushion. I'm going to sit here till I get it. I'm going to sit here like this is my last thing.
That is so awesome. I heard Tulku Urgyen say, I mean, these great masters, I use Tulku Urgyen because I have a lot of experience with him and a lot of our listeners know him, but all the masters say the same kind of cool stuff. But they have a way of being both lighthearted about serious matters and also driving them home. And Tulku Urgyen told this story several times. He said it came from Padampa Sanjay, the great Indian master, who is the sort of teacher of the teacher of Chud to Machik Labdran and so forth. You know him from that. This incredible Siddha. I put in parentheses his Lion of Siddhas biography that Lama Wangdu put together is really, really good. It's amazing. End parentheses. Tulku Urgyen would very frequently say that, quote, Padampa Sanjay is saying, when I see Tibetan people, I feel like laughing. Because everyone knows that everyone's going to die, but nobody thinks I'm going to die. When I see Tibetan people, I feel like laughing. And then Rinpoche would laugh, and half the audience would laugh and half the audience would cry. Sometimes there were just a few of us there. And I remember laughing, but also having tears in my eyes. The poignancy of it delivered with such a humorous kind of twist. Really, I think about it all the time. I think about it all the time. And I want to be one of those few people who thinks I'm going to die. We really have to hold a mirror up. I see my cousin going, this can happen to me. I see, news reports of people dying. This could happen to me. This is going to happen to me. When? I need
Yeah.
to be prepared. How do I prepare? This whole process is really, it's crucial. That's why it's at the very, first of the four contemplations that really turn your mind toward the Dharma is the preciousness of having this birth right now. What's the second one? Impermanence and death. If it wasn't
Yeah.
for that, there'd be no reason to practice Dharma.
Yeah.
We could just try to have fun. And unfortunately, that doesn't add up. And so it's the most crucial thing.
And we have to really accept the fact that what goes with us beyond death? Only our mind. And that's why Dharma practice is so important, because it's not the stuff, the things, our human body, our relationships, all those things leave us at death. But the one thing that doesn't leave us is our own mind. So the time we spend working with our own mind is the most important thing, because it's the only thing to help us at that time.
I mean, that's exactly right. This is what all the teachings say. And to address those people in our audience who maybe are followers of Sam Harris or one of these other sort of modern guru type persons who have a very scientific materialistic view that at the time of death, everything ceases, you're alone in the history of the world if you have that view. And just so you know, all the greats from all that we have recorded history, there aren't very many atheists, and not atheists, but nihilists in this realm,
Nihilist.
right? Plenty
Mhm.
of atheists. That doesn't matter. All of us are kind of atheists if we're Buddhist, I guess. But it is a very dangerous thing to assume that, oh, hey, this person knows about psychology or they know about science or something, and they say that we don't continue because of brainwave activity or whatever other BS they are spewing. They're in direct opposition to all the great masters of all the traditions in every time up to now. And I think that to think, well, those guys were just fools. I know what's going on. That seems very arrogant and dangerous. So I encourage our listeners who have this attitude to really read up on Pascal's wager and see if you want to roll those dice. If you do, hey, I'm all for it. And if you feel no fear about death and you can live your life in a moral and complete way and you don't mind when other people die, then hey, you don't have to practice. Party. I'm not like that, so I have to practice. Whether it's
Yeah.
Socrates or it's frickin' Niels Bohr, everybody was on the same side of the table saying consciousness continues. And
Yeah.
there's so many studies and so much. It seems asinine to me to put all your money on the idea that, oh, well, I'm not going to survive my death, so it doesn't matter. It's probably exactly why we're back here in this corporeal form. Better to be prepared. And if we do disappear, ultimate party. That'll be fantastic. That'd be the greatest news ever.
Yeah.
But Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and all the great Greek philosophers up to the modern scientists like Einstein and Bohr and many
Yeah.
other. I have a friend who runs the cyclotron at Brookhaven National Laboratories. And he's like, we're not stopping. We're not going to end. And this is a modern guy right now. He's the head of that right now. He's got a PhD too. So I think I just say that because very many people are like, I don't have to think about that because when I die, I'm gone. Uh-huh. Yeah. I strongly recommend thinking about Pascal's wager. He was also smart. So I don't put that in parentheses because I don't care what people believe, but it's very foolish. So on the one hand, in my opinion, foolish. I'm not calling anyone a fool. If anybody's a fool, he's this guy here. On the one hand, to be practicing Buddhism, but on the other hand, to be like, oh, rebirth and all that stuff is just bullshit. Buddha was kidding, or he didn't know. Then there's no reason to practice Buddhism if there's no rebirth. That's a
Yeah.
fact. There are many humanistic views that can take you into a moralistic and kind of healthy way to interact with your family and friends and other people in this world. And you might as well do that. They sometimes work better than sitting on your cushion all these years. But if you're in line with every great thinker of all time, from every culture that we have records of, then it's worth considering this stuff for real. Otherwise, you roll dice you probably shouldn't be rolling. So I put that in parentheses.
Yeah, it would be the only exception to cause and effect. In every single other thing in the whole all known universe, it would be the one exception. So the likelihood of that to me is stupid. And number two, anybody who spent significant time in meditation or taken a hefty dose of psychedelics knows that this experience is malleable and it's consciousness that's primary, right?
You're,
I mean,
you're
it can be
so right.
experienced. And every night you go to another universe in another lifetime with other people, completely forget this one and have total experiences just in your consciousness. It to me is insane to think But
I
anyway,
feel the exact same way. It is so easy to focus entirely on this life and to not take seriously the insights and discoveries of all of our predecessors. But if we take them seriously for a second, we get all the benefits that I have been discussing, right? Our our grasping and fixation is loosened a little bit. Our expectation of eternal adventures is increased, which is awesome. And we become more of a support and benefit to others, which is the whole freaking purpose of it.
yeah,
I think we're about out of time, aren't we?
yep,
Can I
yep,
can I read one quote from Paltrul Rinpoche?
please.
I think this is summarizes the whole thing. He says, meditate single-mindedly on death all the time and in every circumstance. While standing up, sitting, or lying down, tell yourself, this might be my last act in the world, and meditate on it with utter conviction. On your way to wherever you might be going, say to yourself, maybe I'll die there. There's no certainty that I will ever come back. When you set out on a journey or pause to rest, ask yourself, will I die here? Wherever you are, you should wonder if this might be where you die. At night, when you lie down, ask yourself whether you might die in bed during the night or whether you can be sure that you're going to get up in the morning. When you rise, ask yourself whether you might die sometime during the day and reflect that there's no certainty at all that you'll be going to bed in the evening. Meditate only on death, earnestly and from the core of your heart. Practice like the Kadampa Geshes of old, who were always thinking about death at every moment. At night, they would turn their bowls upside down, and thinking how the next day there might be no need to light a fire, they would never cover the embers for the night. In Tibet, they turn their bowls upside down when they're going to die. When someone dies, they turn their tea bowl upside down. So they would do that as a sign. I think this is the whole thing. If we meditate like that, we become more and more free, more and more of service to others, and not focusing on things that don't matter.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much again for watching. We really appreciate all you viewers who come again and again watching our show. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all those things. It helps with the algorithm, helps support our show, costs you nothing. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time with our next episode.